This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Tell you who else is really good. That is Tom Murphy of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and Whole Hog Sports. We can ask him football, basketball, and baseball, and he'll send us some good info right then and there. Tom, appreciate it as always. We have been talking a lot of basketball, but I do want to ask you some football questions. Sam Pittman meeting with the media tonight. I know the spring game's about a month off for the spring practice or whatever. As we continue to see practice, as you continue to see little glimpses of kind of what's going on, has there anything that has stood out to you as of late, or anything that you're really intrigued to see in the coming weeks?
Good morning, man. Yeah, and I have some thoughts on that, but I have to tell you, Ty, if I was in Iowa, if I was in Des Moines, I would go by the Breakfast Club, A, to sample what they got, but B, to listen to you, man.
Thanks, man.
Sure, it's going to be a good time.
It'll be fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, but if only if I was in Des Moines. And then I would go by the state capitol, too, so I could knock out one more state capitol.
You're a capital guy, right?
I'm a nerd about going into the capitals. A lot of them have collections and art galleries and things like that, so it's really cool. But Colorado's was fantastic, Nebraska's. But anyway.
How many of you hit, Tom?
God, I don't have the number right in front of me, but I'm in the 20s. And, you know, I shake my head in sadness because I've been to so many of these state capital cities like Honolulu, Tallahassee, Boise, Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming. I've been to them, but I didn't go into the buildings. And now I'm going to have to retrace my steps. But anyway, on football, yeah, you know, the DBs are down in numbers. And the first practice, Max Johnson, you know, he got beat a couple times. And, you know, it was really cool to see Deron Wilson and Marcus Woodson talking to him, you know, boosting his confidence and things. And then on Thursday last week, he had a much better practice. In fact, he looked like a really strong cover guy. And so they're a little bit down at the cornerback position because Quincy McAdoo's out. And, you know, they don't have some of their guys like Singletary who will be here. And so watching the matchups is always fascinating to me, these tall new receivers. And then the holdover guys like Satania has had some good one-on-one work, you know, getting deep, using his speed, and then bringing in deep balls. So there's so many new faces that you're trying to watch what these new quarterbacks look like. Chris Well, Singleton, you know, you're trying to look at what the new receivers are like, all these new DBs. So, and it's fast action. That's the thing I'll credit with the coaching staff with the most is having the practice plan like down pat, where every position is held, who goes where, and how they transition. They run from position to position, from period to period, and just look like they know what they're doing. And that's not an easy thing to do, but you know they've come out firing pretty good so far.
Tom, you mentioned Satania. I know Razorback Football put out that video of him catching the bobble pass and just the plays. Wide receivers, we talked about it a little bit last week. Is he the most intriguing outside of the transfers that you have returning based on his accolades in high school?
You know, I think so. And I would also throw Jaden Wilson in the mix a little bit just because they have really promoted how much he bought in during the offseason and the progress he's made. And so I hope to see some of that before the spring is out. But here's an interesting thought. I think they felt that the hype the new receivers got last year bothered maybe some of the returners. So you got Jaden Hazelwood, Matt Landers, and company that came in. And I think the receivers already on campus, you know, felt a little neglected by it. And Sam Pittman said in the very first meeting of spring how putting the transfer guys into the starting lineup immediately, that's something that maybe he, you know, semi-regrets. And he specifically mentioned Hazelwood. Well, what position was that? That was the slot. Who played there? Ketron Jackson Jr., who's not on the roster anymore, Ketron. And might have been the most talked about receiver on this roster had he returned. So I think they've been very careful at not over-promoting Armstrong and Tesla and Broden, and saying, hey, we have returning guys who are good. And I do believe that Satania is ready for a breakout. There are people here in town who thought he would have a phenomenal freshman season. The high ankle sprain slowed him and things like that, but he's got the speed. And Bryce Stevens, you saw the touchdown he caught against Mississippi State from a Malik Hornsby pass. So in other words, he's got speed too, and made a contested, jump in the air catch for that touchdown. So I don't think they're going to be lacking in receiver talent. And honestly, getting open to me is a big deal. Like these tall guys, yeah, you're tall. You can win 50-50 balls. How open can you get? And that's what I want to see.
Tom, walk our audience through the schedule, because I think you get so distracted with basketball and March Madness, baseball being played, and you got spring practice going on. But, there's a few practices and they hit spring break. Walk us through that, and also when the pads come on and it gets a little more real.
Oh, man, you got me under pressure, man.
Sorry.
Stop. But I think I have it. I'm pretty sure I have it. So they work Sunday. We didn't cover that one. That was number 3. And then they go today and Thursday, so that's 4 and 5. And then the Tuesday, when they come back from spring break, which is going to be the 28th, I think, they resume with practice 6. And then I think they go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And then the final week, I think it's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So that Friday one will be very light. Thursday probably won't be very heavy. But and now they're calling, formerly the red-white game is now like the spring showcase. I think maybe because it's not so much of a game format. But we'll see how it turns out. But that's pretty much it. I think easy to remember once they resume after spring break, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think that's when people really pay more attention, and I think we pay more attention as March Madness winds down following spring break. But you mentioned the final one on April 15th, going to be a big weekend on campus, Arkansas and Tennessee down at Baum Walker. You've got the red-white showcase or whatever it's going to be called. Really, it's about numbers and the lack of numbers as to why you can't play a full-blown spring game any longer.
Yeah, I suppose so. But, man, they have so much newcomer talent. And they're going to get their share of compete drills in. That they're not going to be lacking in competing and being put in situations like win this rep, beat the guy across from you. And so we'll see what format the red-white showcase takes. But, yeah, that's going to be a phenomenal weekend. And I'll tell you, of all the sports on campus, the one that needs to get in gear is softball. And you feel like you have this kind of cloak of invincibility because they've been so good now for two full years and then into this season. And now they've shown a little vulnerability. They lost a home series against an unranked team in A&M. And so what pecking order does that put you in? Where are you lacking? Are your pitchers not delivering the way they had? Have they not made progress? So it's the softball team that, unfortunately for them, I guess, is there's a long way to go. They can point to this last weekend and say, look, you have to show up every weekend. You don't just stay on top, And so we'll see what comes of that.
You mentioned pitching. Let's talk baseball for a sec. McIntyre was just shoving this past Saturday. I mean, he was playing great, and he really has played great the last couple of outings. He's 3-0, had that complete game. How have you seen him find his groove as of late, Tom?
Well, what's amazing, 2 early starts were not good at all. The TCU game and then the next weekend, he didn't last very long. And I think he might have been in relief in a midweek and got lit up a little bit. So there was some concern. And then, but he got hit by a comebacker in the shin/knee area, and somehow or another that kicked his mechanics back into gear. And Matt Jones wrote about it. That since then it's almost like he focused more on unleashing, and he was really in control. The cutter pitch Dave Van Horn talked about, even from the side, they could see the movement it was getting, and he just kept Louisiana Tech completely off stride. I mean, 3 hits. The only run was scored when a guy singled, and then there was a chopper on the infield, and Peyton Holt, great play coming up and getting it, but he threw wildly to third, so that allowed the runner to get threw wildly to first. that allowed the runner to get to third, and then, a single up the middle, and they scored. That's the only run, 97 pitches. He had a bunch of sub-10 pitch innings, and can you imagine what might have happened last weekend had he, say, thrown a 3-inning outing up there, and they had to tap into that bullpen, which has already been taxed. But fortunately, they had a little bit of time before conference play started to find filler guys for Cody Frank and Brady Tigert. And it looks like they're, I wouldn't say fully confident, but they're getting guys like Fouch and Gage Wood and, Adcock and Dylan Carter, I think, specifically, to give them more innings. And I think in the long run, if Tiger's able to come back healthy, it will help that these guys are getting some work while he's shelved.
Last thing, Tom, so you mentioned the infield. I do wonder how they're going to play out. You think about how Wallace Moore battles last season. Even Stovall at first was gloving it. Curious how that defense plays out. I do want to ask you one basketball question before we go. Tommy and I were talking about the SEC, right? You got Mississippi State taking on Pitt tonight. You'll have at least 6 SEC games Thursday and 1 on Friday, and might be 7 if State wins. Are you thinking the SEC is going to have a banner year based on what you've watched in conference this season in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I do think they're going to have some long advancers. I mean, Alabama comes to mind, obviously, as the number 1 seed in the tournament. And then, look at Arkansas's recent past. You feel like if they can get by Illinois, then the Kansas game is really big, because I think, the winner of that game has a chance to go a good ways. But, yeah, I mean, I think there's probably going to be a mix of teams that really excel and then some that, face plant and you wonder what happened. I cannot predict. I don't know the matchups like, the Kentucky, Tennessee, Auburn draws, what they look like. And Auburn's got to get past Iowa in the first round. But what's really neat is there's a bunch of SEC Big Ten matchups. Big Ten. And I think they tied with 8 selections each. So people are going to be keeping close track of that. And Arkansas, interestingly enough, is going to go against a team that's taller than them in Illinois, one of the tallest teams in the country. And what does that give Arkansas maybe an edge that they could be, faster than Illinois? That's going to be one of the intriguing things. Illinois is a good shot blocking team, and Arkansas wants to get inside, get to the paint, and get fouled. So that's going to be the big deal in this game to me.
Got the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. We'll see which plays out and who wins out on Thursday. And we'll get more of an update from you on Thursday, Tom, as we get ready for this game at 3:30. Then, man, we appreciate the time as always.
You betcha. See y'all.
BetOnline remains your number 1 source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.